What's good, guys? Hi, my name is Christopher Bennett, but on YouTube, my pack, everybody knows me as the Mount Vernon Kid. Welcome to the first movie review, spoiler heavy movie review on the Patreon. And this is exclusive to Patreon. So for every Patreon member out there, thank you for tuning in for all those who are here. So this is going to be a spoiler heavy of this character. The last Marvel movie of the year came out, and it was a doozy. It was a banger. It was a head banger, and I loved every freaking minute of it. Very much. So we going deep into everything of this movie, guys. Not gonna sugarcoat it, everything. I'm gonna talk about my favorite scenes. I'm gonna talk about my kind of my nitpicks of it. Where do we go from here? How did I enjoy the ending? Everything. This is what my non-spoiler review on YouTube is not gonna get. So yes, but there are some things. So first of all, people have been calling this the greatest Spider-Man movie of all time. That's an opinion. Everybody can say what they want, but I will say it is a contender. This was great. To me, this is Tom Holland's best performance as the character at whole. This is a character that I've been reading since I was 10 years old. A character I've been reading for nearly over 30 years now. I started reading Spider-Man when I was 10. You know how old I am now? I'm 39. I'll be 40 next year. Amazing. But this was also the best performance by all the characters, in my opinion. I loved Zendaya in this more than she's been as the other character. Because here in this movie, they acknowledge that she is a variant of Mary Jane, except that she's called Michelle Jones Watson. They legitimately state her name. So she is a variant of Mary Jane, and I can accept that. The movie, like I said, picks up right where the last one left off. People know who Spider-Man is, and people are hounding him, and this and that. Then, of course, damage control comes in. I was kind of interested they had damage control in there. Pick him up and start asking him questions, and it's crazy, but that's Mysterio. Mysterio would always try to come up with a backup plan, and he did. Unfortunately, Peter's lawyer was able to work something out. And who was that lawyer? None other than Mr. freaking Charlie Cox, Matt Murdock, back in the role that he was destined to be again. And so now we know we have two characters that were part of the Netflix universe or whatever, officially in the MCU. Matt Murdock, Daredevil. And we are going to see the big man himself, Kingpin, in Hawkeye, finale of Hawkeye. And I can't wait to see where they put everybody else in terms of the other Netflix characters. But yeah, it was great. And there's a scene, and I love it so much. Matt's telling them, like, okay, you're practically going to get off. Don't worry about it. And he's talking to Happy, saying, like, you're going to need a lawyer. And I love, there's the scene plays out. An angry neighbor, since they know who he is, throws a brick through the wall, and Matt catches it. And the look on Peter's face sold it so well. I love the look. He's like, how did you do that? We know. But I love Matt's reply, Charlie Cox's reply. I'm a good lawyer. I was like, ugh, I can't wait to see more. That was downright beautiful. But yeah, definitely this was definitely Holland's best performance. I love that the movie gave more screen time for Aunt May. This is probably the most screen time she's gotten um, in all the movies, I believe. Correct me on that, guys, but I think it is. You know, Aunt May, played by the lovely and talented Marissa Tomei. Yes, indeed, that woman is gorgeous to me. Um, and I love that she got more screen time in this. She is the matriarch of the Parker family in a sense. So why not? You know what I'm saying? Why not have her have more screen time? But once the pacing picks up with the whole concept, I was glad they didn't spend too much time on, the whole, oh, everybody knows Peter, everybody knows Peter. They're out to get him, blah, blah, blah. No, nah. I love that they, it started to focus on also Peter feeling bad, what the character is known for. Guilt, I hate to say it, but guilt is a big part of this character. And he feels that, yes, it's my fault that, you know, Ned and MJ are part of this. And, but I love that they're like, we're in this together. We're going to do this. And, you could see it throughout the whole first couple of the movie. Like, it's all about, trying to get to college and things like that. MIT, they all want to go to MIT, and unfortunately, they don't get it accepted because of the events that happen. And I love that. But I love that Peter is willing to try, which he should have done first. But yeah, he goes right to Doctor Strange. But I did like that. I did like he went to Doctor, and Benedict Cumberbatch and Tom Holland have great chemistry. They have so much good chemistry. It was great to see them back on the screen together. I loved it, and it was also interesting that Wong was promoted to Sorcerer Supreme because Wong, because Doctor Strange was blipped out. But I thought Wong was too, but I guess he wasn't. So I do like that. Um, I thought that was really interesting indeed that that he was acknowledged. He's the Sorcerer Supreme or so just for a while. Um, Once the picking up of the spell in terms of Peter wanting to, you know, makes everybody forget, and then he's like, okay, but make sure they know, and make sure they know, and first, I love it. Doctor Strange's like, okay, all right, there we go again. All right, I got it. And then okay, Aunt May too. All right, and then he just keeps and I'm in the movie there like, Peter, be quiet, like stop, like, and then we know what happened. But I did love that. I really enjoyed that. And then of course once Doc Ock comes into the picture, it got even great, even better. And just to see Alfred Molina back as that character was great. And I think they did a little something with Alfred Molina, what they did with Sam Jackson and as young Nick Fury. I think they used the same technology. I think to kind of de-age him a little bit, which I think it was pretty cool to do that, especially being that he's supposed to be being picked out of a certain point, which was fine. But once the other characters started to come in, it was go time. They just started picking it up and picking it up. Doc Ock was like, he thought, Peter Holland's Peter was Maguire, Peter Maguire, but it wasn't. I love like he's like, oh, nanotech, huh? Okay, he learned something new, and it was great. But I love when he took the nanotech from the Stark armor. Peter was able to control his arms. I love that. That was great. I was like, oh, that's so cool because he had Peter up against the wall and he was going to use that, that dagger that comes out of one of the arms, and next he's like, what did you do? And I love that. That was perfect. That was so perfect. I love that. That was great. And because all Peter wanted to do was he was trying to get to the MIT, like admissions secretary or something like that. I forgot what she was, but he wanted to talk to her, and because of that, she did say, "I'm going to talk to them about you and MJ and Ned." And he said, "Not this is not about me. This is about them." And she said, "I'm going to do it." And I love what she said to Doc. It was funny. You like come here. Like I thought that was hilarious. That was hilarious. Once Green Goblin got involved, he came, and then we started to see everything happen from there. Was just seriously sick, and to see Peter see like the lizard and see Doc Ock and all of them, and you know it was interesting, and more importantly, to see Peter, like how Holland would react to seeing a very giant lizard man was interesting. I love that they got all the actors who played them in the movies back. I thought that was great. And then Doctor Strange needed Peter to go out and get the rest of them, and he did. Um, you know, Green Goblin, Willem Dafoe hasn't lost a beat as that character. Hasn't lost a beat as that character. He actually destroyed his old costume. Like, I thought that was interesting to see that. And then he met Aunt May, and she was at the feast, homeless shelter, and she even said he's not right. Like, and I love that. Aunt May is the one that really is architecting Peter. No, we help people. That's not what we do. We help people. You don't forget that. And I love that. I love that. But Peter did take Norman back. And I love how the point about it is still where they picked all these characters from, because once Peter gets Sandman and Electro, which is interesting because there was a team up between Sandman and Peter for a while. I love the fist bump in his hand. I felt a little bad because it's like, wait a minute, how come Sandman is still like in his sand form like all the time? But once we saw them, like all the people, they knew each other, and some of them, like we had the Lizard. Dr. Connors basically telling Electro, played by Jamie Foxx, he's like, Max, like you look different. Like last time I saw you, you were buck teeth with, and I'm like, yeah, like okay, so where are they picking these people from? Same thing like Osborn told Osborn, how are you alive? You're dead. Where did he pick them from? Like that's one of the nitpicks I had with the movie is where did they take these characters from? Like a certain point in the movies, like where? Because Sandman even goes into detail to both Ock and Green Goblin, like you both died, like, and it was weird at times, but it was still very cool to see all of them come together. I still feel that out of all the villains, Sandman didn't need to be in this movie. I'll be honest. It was nice to see Mr. Church back as the character, but I don't think he needed to. I don't really don't think he needed, because in my opinion, there were things in this movie that it's just like, first, like one of the things that bothered me is how much flipping he did. Like, it's like, oh my God, what the fuck? Like, dude, stay on one side of the coin. Like, either you're with them or you're not. Like, stop twisting everything. You want us to feel sorry for you because you want to get back to your daughter, but then you're like, no, I'm going to be with the bad guys. No, it was weird. And then it's to the point, then we also have to remember, this is the same Sandman that was involved in Uncle Ben's shooting, and I still hate that. I just hate it. But yeah, you could see like Max Electro was, he really liked being in the MCU. He was like, yeah, I like this, because he was feeling all the electrical pulse, and even Stark Tech. He was like, ooh, I like that. I like that. Let me get more of that. But you kind of knew he was gonna go. And of course, but I love that we saw Peter in this movie being the scientist that we know he can be, that we know he is. The way he was able to finally, agree to help, cure these guys, even going against defying Doctor Strange. There's a part where I know Doctor Strange is being who he is, but Doctor Strange does have a heart too. He's not cold-hearted like that. Like, oh, you got to believe in, it is their fate to die or whatever. But at a point, it's like, but what can, it's almost to the point. It's like it was already written, I guess, but we got to try. I love how Peter was able to cure Doc Ock, literally, and I love that scene. That scene was beautiful. Just to see Alfred Molina come back, and he's like, "Oh my God, it's never been so quiet in my mind. I can hear my thoughts, like almost like it clear. You clearly see, to a point. It's like, yeah, these arms, they were probably like millions of arms. All four of those arms were probably talking at the same time, and he couldn't hear himself think. So to hear him, I thought that was lovely. I was like, oh, that's so good. That's so good. He was going to cure Max, and, you just started to see him, like, I don't even know if I want to do this. Sandman, like, I don't trust anybody, but it's like, but dude, you see, he's helping. That was the point where I'm like, wait, like, dude, Peter's helping. He just helped Doc Ock. And I love that. And of course, yeah, we knew Norman was, and he said a line in here that I really liked too. I thought that was really good that they said, when he said that line, everybody clapped. But that scene in particular in Happy's apartment was beautiful, especially the use of the spider sense. Ooh, that was beautiful. I love how they use the spider sense in the MCU. Like now it's in tune now. Because you remember in Spider-Man, the OG Spider-Man movies, the spider sense went like that noise, and he would look around. I forgot how it sounded like in Amazing, but in this, I love how it kind of feels for Peter in the MCU. Like it kind of, it like slows down and almost like time is, it's almost like definitely like a radar. It's picking up on the higher frequency of where the potential dangers come from. I love that. It's like, and I love it because soon Peter just shoot, and he shoots a web at Norman because he knew it was Norman. And that's where once he tried to cure everybody, that's when the pacing starts picking up even more. And there were so many scenes. That fight scene between between Peter and Norman in the apartment complex was brutal. Peter, this is probably the best hand-to-hand combat of Tom Holland as this character, and he's going ham on Osborn at many times. There's times like the slams, the like the German, the headstands, the punching, the power bombs, and through the floors. It's like, oh my God, the amount of force that these guys are throwing at each other. I was like, ooh, I'm loving this. I was loving it. And then, of course, unfortunately, there is a death in this, and a part of me felt it was coming. But I love how Aunt May didn't go out like just a damsel in distress. She came to help her nephew, even though he's telling her, "May, run, please run," and she stabs Osborn in the neck with what was supposed to be his cure, but it didn't work. And unfortunately, Jesus Christ, the shock, the sheer amount of force Marissa Tomei took from the glider, collided, and I was like, oh, like I even went, oh, and I knew she was hurt. But she gets back up like, yeah, I'm okay, yeah, let's go, like, but you can see that something is wrong. And I will admit, as many times as I've read Aunt May's death in the comics and seen it, we seen her death in the Spider-Man game, but in the comics they usually sometimes bring her back. But here, once again, as many times I've seen Aunt May's death, it still hurts, and I cried. I'm sitting there like tears are just coming down my eyes, guys. I'm like, yeah, oh Jesus, like, oh come on, man, like, and the dude that was next to me, he turned and he kind of, I guess, looked in my direction. He looked over. He's like, dude, are you crying? I'm like, yeah, man. I was like, yeah, I'm crying. Like, and the reason why, yes, I love Aunt May, but the reason why is I put myself in Peter's shoes. He was at the mercy of Doc as Green Goblin, and he couldn't save his aunt. And that's always been the mythos and architect of that character of, sometimes guilt. He's a character of guilt, of tragedy, and you get to see that in this. And she's still talking to, like, it's almost like she's still talking to Peter, like talking to him and just telling him, and the famous lines are finally dropped. Someone finally said it. With great power, there must always come great responsibility. And I still wished it was Uncle Ben. The fact of the matter, man, guys, it seems like in the MCU, it basically acknowledged that in this universe, there is no Uncle Ben. Uncle Ben doesn't exist. May was never married. It should be. It shouldn't be. Uncle Ben is still an essential character to Peter. I don't care if we saw his death 1,000,000 times. That still, to me, should be in there. But I give it a pass somewhat because it was still said by a Parker. Still was a Parker that said those famous lines. Once the other Spider-Men come in, guys, all I can say is brilliant. All the nuances, all the feeding off of each other in terms of, this, what happened to this OG Spider-Man, Tobey Maguire, or this or Andrew Garfield Spider-Man. It was great. I loved it. I love how Ned is the one that brings them in, kind of, because he took Doctor Strange's, the ring, the tell, and he's calling, find Peter, and one door, and then there's like, oh, there he is, right there. Peter, and actually, it's Peter, but not Peter. Andrew Garfield comes in first. Andrew Garfield Spider-Man comes in first, and they're like, okay. And I thought it was a funny scene, like MJ's throwing stuff at him, like, prove your Spider. And he sticks on him. He's like, do I got to prove anymore? Like, and his Ned's grandma's like, could you get the cobwebs off the door? It was funny. And he's like, all right, there you go. And then he tries again, and Toby comes through. And oh my God, does Tobey Maguire freaking age? He looked great. Either they did something digitally to him or not, because the man looked so cool. Like, not that much has changed. But it was great to see him and to see them interact. And next they go to Peter. I love the scene where they kind of decide, like, where Peter would go to think. And each of the Spider-Men said, well, I once again, if you're a New Yorker, you get it. He's like, well, I think it was OG Spider-Man, Tobey Maguire, said the Chrysler Building, and Tobey Maguire, I mean Andrew Garfield Spider-Man says the Empire State, but you get a better view, and they're like, yeah, you're right. And so, but MCU Spider-Man goes back, I guess, to school to, and that's where they go. And I love that speech. I love that talk that they had with them about everything, that they understand what he's going through. Toby's talking about Uncle Ben. I lost my Uncle Ben. I found the killer and I wanted to kill him too. Um, it didn't stop me from having pain. Andrew Garfield Spider-Man talked about I Gwen, who was like your MJ. I lost her. You know, they go into deep about everything about and then of course then they say the famous line, "Great power comes great responsibility," and that's what triggers Holland Spider-Man. Like, wait, where did you hear that from? Who told you that? And they both said Uncle Ben, which was very interesting. And I love that it was there that it was like, okay, we're on the same page. And when they were dealing with trying to come up with cures for the for the villains, I love that. I love the fact that Andrew was kind of getting on Toby a little bit. He's like, are you going to be around all the time like that, or looking like because Toby was in like a fighter jacket, pants, and he's like, and he just went, it's always on, like, and I love that. I thought that was great. Once they started to see that Toby had organic webbing, they were like, wait, how does that work? Like, where does that come? Is that always in your body? No, wait, I don't mean it like that. If it's too personal, that's fine. But how does that work? I love that they brought that up. I was hoping they were going to bring that up, and they did it. And I was like, as soon as that happened, I'm like, yes. I was loving that because he has organic webbing. They use webbing, and I love how Peter talks about it. They're like, I have to make more. I have to make it in a lab. I also love what they talked about with Andrew. He also talked about loss. Like, basically, it's implying that even after he defeated, I guess, the Rhino at the end of Spider-Man 2, Amazing Spider-Man 2, it didn't help him too much because he said it. Like, there was still anger there. And I started not to pull my punches. Nobody in my movie theater picked up on that except me. I don't mean to sound like I was special, but that was, as soon as he said that, I was like, woo. Everybody else didn't get it. I got it. Meaning, he's not pulling his punches. Meaning, he's putting his super strength into every punch. So in his world, they're probably bad guys who got severe limps or can't use severe body parts anymore because you know what, up. So I'm like, yeah, you crazy? But I love that scene. That scene was great to see the kind of thing they're going through. They talk about, the villains they faced, and, Peter's talking about, yeah, I even fought villain aliens outside, and Tobey Maguire's like, wait, you were out in space? It was stuff like that. It was like, you were geeking out because it's like, yo, this is ill. I love it. I was like, oh my God. I loved it. And soon as the fight between all the villains came, I was glad that they addressed this too. Remember, Spider-Man, for most of his career, is a loner. He's not a team guy. So Maguire and Garfield's Spider-Man, they don't know about being a team. They don't. So I love that they were like, wait, we're not on the same page. Like, I never been on a team. Like, what's going on? How do we do it? And Holland's Spider-Man, like, I have. I've been on the Avengers, and I love the Avengers. Really? It was like, wait, what's the Avengers? Are you in a band? It was so cool. So I love how it was Holland Spider-Man that was like, okay, we pick one target, go after him, boom, then we do it. I was loving that. I was like, yeah, that worked. Also, Garfield Spider-Man gets a little redemption in this because MJ falls off the Statue of Liberty. They're fighting on the Statue of Liberty, and she falls, and he catches her, and it's almost like a redemption because you can even see he's about to cry when I was like, ooh. It was also interesting too that they were putting they're on in this world the Statue of Liberty. They're about to put a Captain America shield on it too, and I kind of agreed with somebody even said like leave it alone. Like yeah, why would I get it? Just put a Captain America statue next to it or something. But I thought that was really interesting too. Just to see them cure each character and then and even when Doc Ock came in to help, I loved it. He was there to help, and he helped cure Max, and things like that. But this is a scene that was really funny because there's a scene in here that kind of gives a little acknowledgement to Miles. Andrew Garfield's Spider-Man comes down to check on Max Dillon, Electro, and he's like, yeah, well, I'm back to being a nobody now. And you got to remember, this is Max Dillon looking all crisp and clean now. He's not all like how he was in the beginning. And Peter's like, you were never a nobody, Max. Like, things like that. And then Max says, this had to have been ad-libbed by Jamie Foxx. He's like, you're from Queens, you're helping the poor. I thought you, and he said, I thought you were black. And I'm like, look at me. And even I'm like, that had to have been ad-lib because I'm like, Queens, there are white people in Queens. I'm like, and it was like, and I love, he was like, man, there's got to be a black Spider-Man out there somewhere. I'm like, and everybody got that one. But yeah, it's like, wait, like, I found it funny, but I'm also a little insulted because I'm like, as a New Yorker, I've been to Queens and there are whites in Queens. Like, it's not just blacks, but that had to have been ad-libbed. I was like, that had to have been. No way was that written into the script. That had to have been. But I thought it was funny. Something Jamie Foxx came up with. But I do like that the actors did get to, like, even when Doc Ock saw Tobey Maguire Spider-Man, he's like, Peter, he's like, look at you. You're a grown man now. I'm like, wasn't he always a grown man? Like, I love that. And then that's when Green Goblin came. And I like the variation to his costume, that it looked a little bit more like the Goblin. Like he had the cloak, the purple cloak, he had the purple cloak around, and the green, and he had goggles on. But that fight, then once again, Peter went right after him, and I'm like, Peter, keep it cool now, keep it cool. And he breaks the glider, he brings it down, they fall, and they go at it. I love how Peter got into his stance, like he was like, yeah, I'm okay, mother, I'm ready for you this time. And then they go ham again. There was even a point where Peter flipped powerbomb Green Goblin. I was like, this is some wrestling. Like, he, boom, dropped him. Then he just starts hamming rights and left, like almost like a Dempsey roll. He's just going boom, boom. He's just hitting Green Goblin, bam. If they gave it more respect, like seeing blood, like him just, it didn't even look like he was pulling his punches, but he's just wham, wham, wham. And it was there. That's when the other Spider-Man came. When he picked up that glider. Boys and girls, and he looked like he was ready to kill him. And that's when Toby came in and stopped him. And then Toby got stabbed in the back. Everybody, we all had like, we thought, oh, you better not kill him. But he was okay. He was there, but he was just like, he's like, yeah, I've been stabbed before. It's like, but it was like, he's like, you okay? It's like, I've been stabbed before. But yeah, we all gasped for air. We're like, oh, no, like, it's like, no. It was, but yeah, that was a good fight too. Those fights were great. This is truly where it felt like, truly, for the first time in Holland's his run, that it really kind of felt like there was he had a real villain. Yeah, you could say Vulture, and you could say, Mysterio, great, but when you think about it, when you come down to the nitty gritty of it, always, 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 Green Goblin is Spider-Man's arch nemesis. Not Doc Ock, not Venom, not it's Green Goblin. I'll even admit that. He's not my favorite of Spider-Man's villains. He's up there, but he's not my favorite. Mine is Craven. But yeah, it was great, and I love the just the concept of brotherhood between them. Like the chemistry between Holland, Maguire, and Garfield was there, and it was just like, and I love it. They were like, I never had a brother, but I feel like I got brothers now. Like between all of them, that was beautiful. And the more I saw that, the more I'm like, oh, please have them do some more. The more I'm like, please give Maguire, or either give Garfield another shot as the character, because it worked. I was loving that. I loved the fuck out of that so much. I loved that. But I love that there was also a nod when Doctor Strange came back. It was almost a nod to what he did to Loki. When Loki said, I've been falling for 30 minutes, he said something like that. I was been in the mirror over the Grand Canyon, and I thought that was pretty funny. But yes, Peter made that sacrifice again. He made the sacrifice that we all know and love about Spider-Man. He made the ultimate sacrifice. He told Doctor Strange to do the original spell for the whole world to forget who he is, including MJ and Ned, everybody. And I love that, Peter and MJ acknowledged their love for each other, and she's like, please come find me, because I will find you. I'll figure it out again. And Ned and Peter, I love their handshake, because I used to have a handshake like that with one of my old friends, and we did something like that, and I was like, the final time, and the spell worked, and next you talking about JJ's talking about the incident, but it's flipped now. He's just saying, pretty good for a man who hides behind a mask. He's a coward, and blah, blah, blah. It's like, nobody knows. And even when Peter goes to see MJ and Ned in the coffee shop where she worked, she didn't remember him. He's like, hi, my name's Peter Parker, and it looked like he's about to say it, and he stops himself. He says, I like a coffee. And it's like, it's like, but you understand why he did it. You get why he did it. And I love that. I thought that was another beautiful, beautiful scene. And even to the point where it seemed like, when he left, MJ was kind of looking like almost like, does she know? Does she remember? Because all this is what us comic fans, we know this because this happened in the comics. So, that was interesting. And then we see Peter on his own now, in his own apartment. He goes to visit Aunt May's grave, and he's standing there, and he puts a flower, and Happy comes and doesn't even know him. He's just like, do you know her? Like, and he just says, through Spider-Man. And it's just like, yeah, this thing, it makes me wonder, how long is this going to last? But like I said in my spoiler-free, anything after this is gravy to me, because this was Holland's best performance as that character. And then you see Peter in his own apartment. He's got his apartment, I swear to you, looks just like his apartment in the game. It almost clearly looks a little bit like his apartment from the Spider-Man game. I'm like, oh my God, that looks similar to. And you see he's got like his phone is like tuned into like police bands. And I'm like, oh my God, they took a little bit from the game. And Peter swings out of his apartment. And what is interesting about it, which is interesting, if you look at the costume, it's back to the OG original look. The red, the bright blue. It's all, he's back in his original costume. Not anything Stark made or anything like that. That's gone. I love that. I love that they went back to basics, to the basic costume. Beautiful. And that's where the movie ends. And then came the end credit scene. And I gotta agree. I gotta agree with a lot of people that have been saying the end credit scene for me with a drunk Eddie Brock talking to a bartender about, you know, what goes on in this world, and you got Eddie because I didn't care for Venom. I didn't care for that, but I really didn't. You know, and I'm just like, you know, and then the symbiote Venom's like, yeah, you're drunk, Eddie. Get out of here, Lynn. We need to go. And, you know, he's like, okay, this the green guy and the aliens, and I think I'll go to New York and talk to the Spider-Man guy. And right before he's about to leave, Doctor Strange sends him back to his world. But what's left behind got me a little piece of the symbiote, and it's alive, is left behind. And I'm like, okay, where y'all going with this? Because now it's even acknowledging that, yeah, there's going to be a Venom in the MCU. The Venom, there's going to be a Venom in the MCU. Not, but still, to me, it was just like, in all, if I'm going to be real, in honesty, to me, it just felt like, okay, y'all do that just to what? Get a piece of, you know, get a piece of the symbiote, and then send Hardy's Venom back to his world, I guess. I didn't really care for it too much. I was like, you know, but when that piece of symbiote was left behind, I was like, yeah, okay, yeah, all right. Okay, let's see where this goes. But outside of that, yeah, that did nothing really for me. But I tell you what did do something for me. Seeing that teaser to Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness. Ooh, that was great. That was great. Seeing Wanda again, that was great. Seeing Mr. Eccleford back as Baron Mordo, almost looking more like OG Baron Mordo. He had the long hair. I'm like, yeah, now we talking. You got to see a little bit of America Chavez, Miss America. I was like, yep. And you can see a certain tentacle, big-eyed creature in there. For all those who know what I'm talking about, Shoma Goroth is, you see him in there. But it's the end. I'm like, what the fuck are they doing now? What? Overall, guys, Spider-Man, this is probably, usually with trilogies, it's always been the trope. The trilogies, they die down. You know, the third one is always sometimes the worst or the lowest in the franchise. This was the best one. Praise to Tom Holland, because he really did his thing. This was his best performance as the character. And I hate hearing him say, like, I don't want to be Spider-Man while I'm 30. I kind of, somebody need to pull him aside, like, bro, come here. Because I'll do it. Somebody, you know, give me money enough, I'll go find him, and I'm like, come here, I want to talk to you about that comment you just said. You know how old Toby was when he was Spider-Man? You know how old, and both Andrew and him are in their 30s. Like, this is the role that made you. This is the role that, if it wasn't for this role, you wouldn't be doing Uncharted. If it wasn't for this role, you wouldn't be as recognized as you are now. I understand you are appreciative. I understand you don't want. I know you want to start a family. I get that because I want that too. But be appreciative of this role. Don't. I know they're working on a four, but yeah, and even that, even working on, like I said, anything else after this is gravy for me. I would love a Spider-Man and Daredevil movie because that'll make me cry. That'll make me cry. Because I'm now interested in seeing where Daredevil Matt's going to end up next. Where are they going to put him? Where he coming next? You know, but outside of that, this was great. I would say, will I give it a perfect 10 or webbing? Maybe I'll probably go there, but I enjoyed it very much. I would definitely go see this movie again. I got friends that said they saw it twice already. I only saw it once. I'd probably see it again, but Tom Holland did his thing. Best performance he put in as this character, and more importantly, I hope everybody else who saw this movie enjoyed it for what it was, enjoyed it for the Easter eggs, enjoyed it for the cast, because the cast deserves so much praise. Like I said, Willem Dafoe killed it again. He didn't lose a step, and I appreciate the fact that all the physical stuff he did himself. And the man is like what 60 something years old now, but still did that. Appreciate that. I appreciate that. There are some things that, like I said, the whole concept of where they took these actors in terms of time and like how did Max look so different than what he looked like before? You know, things like that. Nitpicks, but I don't. That's not going to hold me to anything. This was a great movie. I enjoyed it very much, guys. So for my first spoiler-heavy Patreon video, I hope you guys enjoyed this. Will I do more of these? Yeah, probably will. I don't know what other movie will I do it on because I'm not really feeling the Matrix. I'm sorry, I really am not. I'm not really feeling that. I think the Matrix should have ended at the first movie. There was no need for the sequels, but that's just me. So I don't know. But you will see. So anybody who watching this who is a Patreon member, thank you. I appreciate it. I love you. And I will see you guys next time. Deuces.